a possible new version of the PS Vita can have HDMI and USB ports? That sounds kind of interesting. Ugh. But before we get to this video, let's get to the question of the day. Alright, so stay tuned to the end of this video to find out the answer to the question of the day. Alright, so basically Sony has filed a patent app for the updated version of the PS Vita. Apparently, it could include an HDMI and USB ports. That sounds so amazing. I mean, it's just so mind-boggling, man. They should have included that from the beginning, right? I mean, that could have been a cool thing. Because this is the PS Vita we're talking about, man. That's the last thing that this system needs, okay? That's the last thing they need in order to improve this and increase sales. Alright? It's getting tired, Sony, okay? I don't talk much about the Vita because a lack of interest, really. I mean, who owns a Vita these days? But in all seriousness, let's talk about some of the things that Sony could do to improve the Vita, where it could actually be a quality product that people buy. Okay, first of all, you gotta cut your price, alright? Sick and tired of this. It's too expensive right now. I understand, you know, it's only been out since 2011. I understand that. It's only been out for, you know, relatively short period, but you gotta cut down that price. It's too pricey, it's too much. And nobody wants to pay full price for a handheld that doesn't have a good reputation. You know, it doesn't have a lot of killer apps, and that's the problem, is the games. Alright? You know, when it comes to price dropping, Sony isn't the best, and I have a feeling it's gonna take so long. It's probably gonna take at least another couple of years before they even slice it, maybe drop $50 off from this thing. I mean, God, man. Because Sony thinks that because they have a really powerful system with these amazing graphics and all these different things, it's just a big improvement over the PSP, and it feels so current gen, next gen, high tech, you know, fucking expensive system. They feel like it's justified, that it's worth like 300 something odd dollars brand new. And they feel like, wow, that's, you know, that's the way it should be for a long time, so that whoever gets to buy this, it's satisfying. Like, holy shit, it's worth the money. You know, they think that it's worth the money. They feel like it's justified to have this really expensive system because it is. It's got all these different things. It's a fucking handheld PS3, but in reality, it's not. The fucking problem is that Sony doesn't have killer apps on their fucking console or handheld system. It's not the PS3. You know, it is a PS3 Lite. It is a handheld gaming device that is probably just as powerful as the PS3. I mean, it just doesn't have the games. And that's the biggest problem of them all, is it doesn't have the fucking amazing titles. It doesn't have games that you want to go, holy shit, I gotta buy that right now, I gotta play that right now. You know, like, its versions of Call of Duty sucks. Its versions of Assassin's Creed sucks. I don't think the Vita has a God of War yet. It's all been PSP, and that would have been a very smart thing to do. Instead of releasing the fucking PSP titles, the collection on the PS3, which they did, they should have released a collection in HD on the fucking Vita. That would have made a lot of sense. Matter of fact, release the previous consoles. Like, have a fucking 4-game collection. God of War 1 and 2 from the PS2 days, and the PSP games. And like a 4-game collection on the Vita. That would have been so appealing to me. Alright? I mean, what do they have? You know what I mean? Do they even have a worthy Tekken game? On the PSP, they had Dark Resurrection. That was like the main game that I wanted to play on the PSP. Dark Resurrection was fucking awesome. That's a classic fighting game. On the PS Vita, they got nothing. They don't got shit. I think they had Street Fighter Cross Tekken, but fuck that. Who wants to play Tekken characters in this shitty-ass 2D environment? Street Fighter style. It's like, it just doesn't feel right. I think they, you know, they have a Mortal Kombat game, but I mean, you could play that on the consoles. Everything they have, man, it's like a ported version of an PS3 game, which is, wow, that's redundant, you know, that's really original, you know, oh, take it anywhere now. Even though the PS Vita doesn't really have a long battery lifespan, you know. It's not a Game Boy. Game Boy is like 10 hours straight. Well, how much is the Vita? 6 hours maybe? Correct me if I'm wrong. What else? I mean, there's so many problems, okay? There's so many little things. Like, the marketing is fucked up. Alright, like, how many PS Vita commercials do you see that makes you want to buy a Vita? It just feels like it's not a... They don't know how to market this thing. They don't know the demographics. You have the core fan base. You have the core Sony people that like the Sony style games, and they don't really want a 3DS, or maybe they already did and don't care about it. Like, they want the graphics, which is I understand that, you know, it's pretty impressive for a handheld to be that powerful. So I think the Vita has awesome graphics. There's definitely one, that's the biggest selling point it has for me, is the visuals. But that only goes so far. You have the fucking awkward ass controls, that fucking wide ass the layout. Like, to me, the PSP and the Vita, that just, it doesn't feel comfortable. It's never felt comfortable for me. It's just never... When you play an HD looking game like Uncharted or something like that, or Killzone, you'd rather play it with a fucking controller you hold in your hand, like the DualShock or the 360 controller, where it just feels so cozy and comfy and convenient, instead of like fucking controlling, you know what I mean? You have the fucking screen right in front of you, and then you have the controllers to the side. Like, it just feels awkward. I don't know, it's just one of those things. Like, I never liked that about the Game Boy, even the Game Boy Advance. Like, I just never, it felt, I don't know, like, the portability is nice, but I've always thought that handheld handheld controls have been really kind of awkward. Not nearly as good as fucking consoles. You know, it's because you're basically using the controller and the system and the monitor at the same time. It's the same, it's all built in the same. So you can't really like do amazing stuff with it. You can't like if you're playing the 360 controller or something, you can just kind of, oh shit, and just kind of wave your controller around. Just kind of, it feels more free. It feels more like you can freely move your hands. And, you know, especially if it's wireless. I don't know, man. Just, you're always staring down, you know, it's fucking dumb. But Vita got to step it up. There's nothing on the Vita worth getting right now. There's nothing. There are no games that's worth copping for me that I can't find anywhere else. Particularly the 360 PS3. I mean, does it even have like real exclusives that make it a must-buy? I mean, with Nintendo and the 3DS and shit, at least they got like Pokemon. Pokemon's really popular. They got like Mario games that's like suited for handheld shit. You know, they're trying different things. Sony doesn't have anything like that. Not even close. Like, maybe... I mean, I don't know. Maybe they made a rip-off of Pokemon or something. Another main problem I have is the fact that here we have another new model, supposedly, that's in, like, the rumor mill of the PS Vita, which is only, like, a fucking year and a few months old console. Handheld system, and now we have a new version of the PS Vita coming out again? I think that's one of the things that killed the PSP, was that there were so many versions of the PSP that maybe gamers were turned off. Like, people that wanted to buy a PSP were just like, fuck, there's so many different ones, and then you don't know what they're gonna take out or remove. Like, the PSP Go was a pile of shit because it couldn't play fucking the UMD discs. You know, I mean, the PSP was... There's so many different versions of it, different models, different fucking iterations of it, and some things couldn't run certain things, and certain things were different, and this one had a different fucking battery, and, you know, it's just a mess. And now they're gonna announce a new PS Vita model, probably on February 20th, possibly. I mean, a new Vita model that has some sort of HDMI, whatever output. It doesn't sound like it's enough. I mean, it's gotta have something else. It just sounds like a fucking crappy-ass update that is almost unnecessary. You know, like, oh, here's a brand new iPad or iPhone this year that slightly a little bit different, but it's pretty much the same. Alright, so this was the answer to the question of the day.